कोई बात नहीं, कोई बात नहीं. It's okay.
Namaste. Dreams are enigmatic. They play out puzzling and painful emotions and experience in the safe harbor of our beds. They are indeed fascinating, but the question is, do they have a meaning? What do dreams reveal? Do they reveal our deepest desires or our deepest wounds? Can dreams help us understand how to live? Dreaming is a very important phenomenon, and so is dream analysis. It helps us gain a deeper understanding of ourselves. Dream analysis, however, is a very rare and difficult art. To understand, discuss, and learn how to decipher dreams, we have a series of discussion beginning today, which is Dreams Speaks the Truth. We have with us dream analysis expert, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. He is one of the few subject experts in India and has authored a book, Dream Analysis, which is available on Amazon.com. And that is the book which I set off my journey to dream analysis and interpretation. Delighted to have you with us, sir, today. Namaste.
Thank you.
So, sir, dreams, do they speak the truth?
Ironically, they do.
Okay.
They speak the truth that we don't want to speak to ourselves. They speak the truth that we don't know is residing in deeper corners of ourselves. They speak the truth of a future which we are not yet clear about. They speak the truth about our forgotten past, which we find it so difficult to recollect and relive. Jung calls dreams the unvarnished truth, the truth as it is, which we are afraid to acknowledge is present in us. Sigmund Freud calls dream analysis the royal road to the unconscious, so that we can excavate those truths of the unconscious which otherwise are not possible. So dreams do speak the truth. The only difficulty is they speak it in a language which is not known to us. And therefore, if I was to speak to you in Russian, or if I was to speak to you using hand language, or if I was to give you a piece of paper written in braille language over it, then you cannot make out the meaning of it. That dreams do speak the truth, the unvarnished truth, the royal truth, truth that we refuse to acknowledge or we are incapable of excavating. But they speak the truth in the language not known to us. And that language is a language of symbols, defenses, reality experiences, and fantasies.
So there's a common understanding that dreams are unrealized desires. So is that true, or what are the types of dreams?
What you are saying is true. Uh, most of the dreams that we have are what we say dreams of wish fulfillment. That wishes and desires which cannot be fulfilled in reality, we fulfill in our dreams. So if somebody wants to become the president of USA, cannot become the president of USA, he might have a dream that he is the president of USA. So what is denied to you in reality, you fulfill in your dreams. So it is true that a major part of our dreams are dreams of wish fulfillments. And some of these wishes are so unacceptable morally that we dare not even acknowledge that these desires are there. And some of the desires are so shameful and embarrassing that again we don't acknowledge. But we also have to realize that wish fulfillment is not the only criteria why dreams happen. So yes, most of the dreams are dreams of wish fulfillment, but there are other types of dreams also. Dreams of problem solving, dreams of closure, dreams of affect processing, dreams of anxiety, dreams of trauma, uh, dreams of prophecy, and uh, dreams of the purpose of life, how it is going right or wrong. So these are all different types of dreams we have, and dreams of wish fulfillment are only one of the many types of dreams that we have.
That's a clear benefit of dream analysis or dreaming. So, sir, what are the other benefits of dreaming and dream analysis?
Uh, Science tells us that not only human beings but even animals dream. At least the higher animals, the mammals, are seen to be dreaming or believed to be dreaming, looking at studies of their neurological sleep patterns, which means dreaming is very necessary uh, activity. It is not a waste of time. It is a very necessary activity in which nature invests a large amount of time and energy every day. Uh, in experiments, people have found that if you don't allow somebody to dream, which means the moment you start dreaming in the rapid eye movement part of your sleep, if I wake you up and don't allow you to dream, it has an adverse effect on the psychological health of the person. Dreams are also pleasurable. So one of the natural benefits of dream is pleasure. Dreams also help you to rehearse something which you find is challenging. So dreams have a benefit of rehearsal. They prepare you for what is anxiety provoking to you. Dreams also provide you a window to the unconscious mind to know yourself. Dreams provide you a window to heal yourself if you are suffering from a pathology. And dreams also provide a window on the central question of every human being: what to do and how to live. If life is going wrong or is imbalanced, the dream tells you something about it. And some of the dreams also continue the process of thinking, which we will deal with slightly later, that there are dreams of problem solving where we continue the activity of our waking mind and psychological to self-healing, to self-knowing, to future planning. All these are benefits of healing, not to mention pleasure, which of course is there.
I'm sorry, I forgot to unmute. How do various cultures understand dream?
Uh, can you repeat the question? There was some network issue. I could not hear it clearly.
Yeah, how do various culture understand dream?
Uh, Very, very differently. We have a full range of responses to dreams, ranging from dreams being pure delirium and useless on one hand, to dreams being the voice of God on the other hand. In some of the ancient primitive tribes, there was a custom that every day morning they would get together and tell dreams to each other and understand those dreams. And those dream understanding was then used to go out and plan out the activity of the day. In another tribe, it was seen that dreams are used uh, to sort of get in touch with ancestors who are no longer alive. And they do what the ancestors tell them to do in their dreams. So they don't segregate between reality and fantasy as sharply as we do in the modern age. Then you have Indian culture, where dreams have been analyzed for hundreds and thousands of years for spiritual and mystical purposes. The same is true for the Tibetan culture also. In some cultures, it is believed, in India also it is believed, that while you are dreaming, your astral body goes out and the events of the dream, at least some of them, are actually happening in the astral zone and are not pure imagination. And then some people look at dreams as a very good tool to heal themselves, especially those who use lucid dreaming in various ways. Western psychotherapy has started using lucid dreaming recently, but in ancient tantric practices, the science of Tantra, they have this practice called Avishkara, and this practice which is called Swapneshwari. And those are the practices which also deal with dreams, on how to use dreams for self-development. Then we have uh, extreme modern view, the allopathic view, not which is not the view now, but it used to be about 100 years back, that dreams are have no meaning, they are just delirium. Okay? They are useless activity of the mind when the coordinator is asleep. Okay? And then we have the psychoanalytic view, which gives lot of significance to dreams for self-knowing, self-healing, and future planning. So we have this very different ideas about dreams over a period of history across different cultures. And the modern allopathic culture, which no longer is there fortunately, but at least in the early part of 19th century, the culture around allopathy which was there is the only culture in the history of human civilization where dreams were not given significance. Otherwise, dreams have always been given significance in different ways by different cultures over the entire history of the human civilization.
So did I hear you say problem solving? Does dream
Yes,
help?
yes.
I mean, is it fair to say that dreams even help us solve some unfulfilled task, or if you're stuck somewhere in midst of something, so does it help in problem solving?
Yes, it does. Uh, we can look at it in a very normal way. Let us say you start thinking about something, but you are not done with it, you are not clear, you are grappling with the issue. And often in such a situation, you go off to sleep and you say, let me sleep over it and I will think about it tomorrow. And next day when you start thinking, it becomes much clearer. So what has happened is, during the night, the brain was working on the problem unknown to you. And this working can happen with dreams or without dreams. Some of the very well-known cases in history are uh, the case of how the molecular structure of benzene was discovered in a dream. Right? That the person was thinking about it, he left the problem half finished, went to sleep, and in his dream, he saw the full molecular structure of benzene. Similarly, Einstein had many of his ideas in his dreams. The novelist who created the story of Frankenstein had created this story out of a dream. So in the area of science, in the area of arts, in the area of many other activities of people uh, who are in research, we see the same thing over and over again, that a problem the person is grappling with gets solved in the dream. So there are dreams of problem solving also.
Okay. So is it true that dream that come at a particular time, let's say at 4:30 in the morning or at 7 in the morning, would have a particular meaning?
Some people believe in that approach. That is not my personal belief. uh, I have seen people who practice hypnotherapy and some people who do dream analysis using Indian methods of some particular schools. They do believe in dreams as they occur at various points in time in the night. Especially, they believe dreams that happen early in the morning around 4 o'clock are sort of prophetic dreams, they come true. Okay? But that is not my experience, because I have seen the same kind of dreams happening across different times in the night. I have seen dreams occurring at 4 o'clock in the morning, at times being right, at times being wrong. I have seen the same dreams of fear occur at different points in night. I have seen the same dream, I mean different dreams, let us say dream of problem solving, dream of wish fulfillment, dream of anxiety, dream of closure, all of them happening at the same time in the night for different people and for the same person over time. So my experience is not that we can clearly classify that a dream occurring at a particular time particular meaning or a particular purpose. So this is not what my experience is, but some people do believe in this kind of a theory.
Right. So these days we get dictionaries, dream dictionaries in market, and it's a common thing that you grab a book and you start analyzing your dreams. So how effective is that?
Uh, it is not very effective, but I would not also say don't read them. Proceed on the principle of something is better than nothing. For example, let us take two examples. There are some dictionaries of dreams which give you full meaning of dreams. So they say if you have XYZ elements in the dream, the meaning of the full dream is this. Right? For example, they say if you have uh, fire element in the dream, you see some fire and you see some light. If these two elements are there, it is a dream of repressed anger. Okay? So based upon a few elements, they give you the full meaning of that dream. Some dictionaries don't give you the full meaning of the dream. They give you meaning of each element of the dream. So they will say, if you see snake in the dream, the snake stands for death. Or some will say snake stands for kundalini. Or some will say snake stands for something which is cunning. Okay? But the meaning is fixed. Right? Anywhere in anyone's dream, if the snake comes, this is the meaning. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you say, uh, the unconscious mind is very creative and very subjective. So the same symbol is used for a different meaning by different individuals and by the same individual over time. So if two people see snake in their dreams, one person can have a meaning of snake to be a sexual symbol. The second person can see the snake and the meaning might be a spiritual meaning. And the third might see it as a fear of death. And the fourth might see it as something cunning. The fifth might see it as something slimy and dirty, something disgusting. Okay? So if somebody sees a snake in the dream, there is no way to tell what that snake means. What is the meaning of that symbol? So the symbol is there, but what is the meaning of that symbol? We can find it out only by discussing with the person and getting free associations from the person. Not only that, it differs from person to person. For the same person also it differs over time. You have a dream today, and you see a snake, right? And the meaning, let us say, is of Kundalini. After 2 years, again you see a dream, again you see a snake, and at that time, the meaning might be fear of death. Okay? So for every dream, every person, we have to find out from free associations what is the meaning of that symbol. So we have to essentially find out, one, any symbol in the dream, does it stand literally for itself? Is the snake a snake or is it a symbol? And if it is a symbol, what is the meaning of that symbol, which we get by analysis of free association and discussion. So because this is so subjective and heterogeneous, and the unconscious mind is so creative in using symbols, it is virtually impossible to create a dictionary of dreams. But yes, certain symbols in many groups of people do have certain common meanings. So something better than nothing, on that principle, we can use the dictionaries as indicative references, not as prescriptive knowledge. Uh, you will have to
It's,
unmute yourself.
yeah, it is generalized at your own risk.
That's right. That's right.
So, what is the scientific purpose of dream analysis?
Scientific purpose essentially is for psychotherapy. And the second scientific purpose is to know how the mind works. And the third is to see how, if, not how, but if, we don't know yet, but to see if uh, dream might be that event or that phenomena through which some experience of our life might be passing on into our genes and through that to the next generation. So these are scientific questions about which we are still exploring. We are not certain, but these are very probable hypotheses.
So, we hear of daydreaming and we hear of nightmares. So, what is the difference? What is daydreaming? What is a nightmare? And what is night dreaming?
Okay, let us first look at daydreaming and night dreaming, and then we can look at night dreaming and nightmare. Okay. So, uh, daydreaming is what we dream or fantasize when we have nothing to do but we are awake. And night dreams are the dreams we get after we fall asleep. Both are dreams. The difference is it is easier to remember the daydreams, but very difficult to remember the night dreams. One. Two, uh, daydreams are not as absurd or strange like the night dreams. Three, uh, night dreams are absurd but easy to communicate to others because we don't know what its meaning is and therefore we don't feel so embarrassed. But the daydreams are so embarrassing to communicate. Like, I might have a daydream of becoming the Prime Minister of India, or somebody might have a daydream of becoming the Queen of England or President of USA. Now, these are so embarrassing things to communicate that although they are easy to remember, they are very embarrassing to communicate because they are less uh, strange, and the dream work which hides the real issues, that dream work has not happened enough on the daydreams compared to the night dreams. So the daydreams are more literal expressions of our wishes, our wish fulfillment drive. Also, most of the daydreams pertain to our wish fulfillment. We will see very few daydreams pertaining to dreams of problem solving or dreams of prophecy or dreams of closure or dreams of affect processing, right? Or the dreams of trauma. So most of the daydreams essentially are related to wish fulfillments, which is not the case with night dreams, where you have a variety of types and purposes of dreams. Coming to nightmares. Nightmares are those particular kind of special night dreams where the defensive function has failed and full affect has come out without any attenuation. So usually what happens is that uh, dreams are disguised forms of our desires, fears, and so on. The core idea is disguised, and therefore we think it is a very strange thing. Now, if that psychological process which converts dream into a strange thing does not happen, the full effect comes up. And therefore, it is so unmanageable to experience that most of the time the person wakes up mostly with palpitation, fear, and perspiration. So nightmares are those dreams where anxiety, uh, anger, or some emotion comes up in such measure without any control that the person feels highly anxious and mostly wakes up with these three things: anxiety, palpitations, and perspirations. So this is how we can look at the three: daydreams, night dreams, and nightmares.
So precisely my another question: why are our dreams so absurd? You want, I mean, meaning is something
Yeah, it
else.
brings us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can answer that in two ways. One, dreams are absurd because they are spoken in a language we don't know. It is like if I don't know Chinese and somebody speaks something in Chinese, I can't understand it. Similarly, dreams are spoken in a language of symbols and uh, a grammar of its own. So the vocabulary and grammar of dreams is different. That language is different. The vocabulary is of symbols and the grammar is of psychological laws of relationships and ego defenses. Because of this ignorance that we have about the vocabulary and grammar of dreams, it looks so absurd. That is one. Two, what is the purpose behind making the dream so absurd? It is because one part of our mind feels that if we know the real thing which is there in the unconscious mind, it will lead us to negative emotions like envy, pain, anxiety, right? Unacceptable, morally unacceptable rage, and we don't want to feel these things. And in order to avoid these things, we repress something in the unconscious mind. So that part of the mind tells us that if you want this to come into your dreams, we will allow it only after it has undergone a disguise. So the real idea, right? So for example, let us say if I have anger towards a friend of mine, but it's morally unacceptable to me. So in the dream, I might see a boxing match where two people are having a boxing fight, and one person who is a better looking person wins over the other person after beating him unconscious. So what happens is my anger towards my friend, my desire to beat him unconscious is not acceptable to me morally. If I know that I have that desire, I will feel pain, I will feel guilt, I will feel disgust at myself. So I repress that desire, and that desire tries to come up in dreams. But if it comes up as it is, again the same feelings will come, which I don't want. So one part of my mind disguises my anger and desire to beat my friend unconscious into a boxing match, and I see two strange people, neither of whom I know in real life. Okay. So symbolically, by identification, I satisfy a morally unacceptable desire in my dreams. Okay. So this is how it works, that we don't want to feel our real desires, our real fears. So they get disguised to the point that they become absurd, they appear absurd. And only when they are disguised enough and they appear absurd enough that repression barrier or that censor or the customs official of the mind allows those things to come up in our dreams.
So these are the
So the
few.
dreams are absurd intentionally. Yeah. So the dreams are absurd intentionally so that we are not able to make out the real meaning of the dreams.
So fair to say these are few laws of dreaming.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you know
So
this
there are,
law,
these are the laws of dreaming which,
yeah.
yeah, which we normally call as the ego defenses used in dreaming. These are also called the laws of dream work. These are detailed laws of how the dream work happens, how the disguise happens, and we can look at that part of dreaming in a subsequent discussion.
Sir, other than psychoanalysis, psychotherapy, what are the ways we can interpret a dream? Of course, what we spoke about is precisely psychoanalytic way of interpreting a dream.
Uh, there are many ways of interpreting a dream. Within psychoanalysis itself, you have a Freudian way of interpreting a dream, a Jungian way, a Kleinian way, a Cohusian way, and so on. So there would be 5 to 7 different ways of interpreting the same dream within psychoanalysis itself. Outside of psychoanalysis, those who follow uh, more cognitive approaches like CBT, DBT, or REBT, they have their own approaches of interpreting a dream. Outside of the Western model, if you come to India, various spiritual schools like the Vaishnava school, the Shaiva school, or uh, the Tantric school, each of them have their own ways of interpreting the dream. The Tibetan culture and the Tibetan spirituality has extensive literature on how to interpret a dream. So this is one. In the East, in general, which covers India, China, Japan, and that area, there is also a common belief that uh, your astral body actually goes out of you while you are dreaming, and some of these events actually happen in some astral plane. Okay? So that's a very different way of analyzing a dream. The uh, yoga psychology school in India has its own models of mind, and they interpret the dream in accordance with those models of the mind. So if you look at a dream, you can interpret that in 5 to 7 different ways within psychoanalysis, another 5 ways probably outside of psychoanalysis, but within Western psychotherapy, and another 5 ways, or maybe even 10 different ways in terms of Eastern approaches, which includes India, China, Japan, and so on. Some of the Sufi approaches also. So all these are different ways of interpreting a dream.
Sir, I can't help but ask you, what is your style of dream interpretation and how is it different to from others, the other way of interpreting a dream?
Uh, in my own experience, I realized that it is not enough to use only one school of interpretation to analyze any dream, because many dreams require application of more than one school. It may also, some dreams may also require application of one school of psychoanalysis and one school of Indian psychology. And therefore, if we have to do justice to the dream, we need to deploy multiple schools of dream analysis on the same dream. Certain parts of the dream might be best analyzed using the Kleinian method, certain parts using the Jungian method, certain parts using the Indian method. Therefore, we need one structure of dream analysis, one systematic method, where using the same method, we can do multiple school analysis and then consolidate into one, right? To do real justice to the dream. And for that, I have discovered what is called a 7-step process of dream analysis. And in that 7-step process, the first 4 steps are preparing for dream analysis. And in the 5th step, we apply different schools for analyzing different parts of the dream. And then we consolidate into one. And then we arrive at the learning from the dream and how it helps us in 3 things: self-knowing, self-healing, and future planning of our life. This is how I do it, which is very different from how others do it. Others usually go by only one school, or if they have to do multiple school analysis, they use different methods for multiple school analysis. Whereas what I do is, in the same 7-step process, we can apply different schools, right? Get different interpretations of the whole dream or parts of the dream, consolidate into one, discuss with the dreamer, and finalize the interpretation, and then come to the purpose of self-knowing, self-healing, and future planning. So this is how uh, my way of dream analysis, I think, is more synthetic, more eclectic, and more holistic.
Of course, we touch base with this for now, but we'll take it in detail in our next series, right? Sir, we do that.
Yes, we will. Yes,
And
sure,
sir,
sure, we do that.
I think I'll conclude with a very practical problem. You know, when people come in therapy, of course, dream analysis is something very new. But when they come in therapy and when you ask them about their dreams, they say they don't remember their dreams. So, is there a solution to this problem?
Yes, it is difficult. Remembering the dreams is not easy. Some dreams you remember spontaneously without doing any effort, but they are less than 1% of your dreams. Uh, 99% of your dreams are forgotten. You don't even realize that you have had those dreams. And most of the dreams which you remember partly when you wake up, within 10 to 15 minutes of your waking up, you again forget those dreams. Okay? So the way to remember the dream is this. First, you must take it up as a self-development project, because you are trying to develop your awareness and your consciousness about the unconscious mind. So it is a spiritual self-development process, number one. So you must realize that you are onto a spiritual self-development process. Number two, you should have a clear intention during the day and night that you want to remember your dreams. This wanting is very necessary. Three, always have a pen and paper with you, and whenever you wake up in the middle of night or early morning, whenever you still remember the dream, note down the main points, the power points, the bullet points. Don't try to write the full statements, otherwise you will forget one part of the dream. So whenever you are awake, just note down the bullet points, right? And then you can elaborate, and using the bullet points, you can elaborate the whole dream. Okay? And this has to be done repeatedly. It's only by practice that you slowly start remembering your dreams.
On a lighter note, when I see my daughter midnight typing something on her phone and I tell her, "What are you doing? Go off to sleep," she'll always tell me I'm recording my dream. So I hope sir, it was of course a pleasure speaking to you. And I hope you all enjoyed the starter video with our expert, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. In the next episode, as we discuss, we will get into details of how a dream is analyzed from various school of psychoanalysis using the Freudian and the Jungian schools, and of course many others. Do watch our coming episodes and write to us at hvindia@gmail.com. Till then, take care. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.